This conference will now be recorded.
All right, so today is Wednesday, November 4th, and as always, everything that we're going to be talking about today is for educational purposes only, and nothing is intended as any type of investment advice. So, based off of what we had yesterday, it's funny, coming into this morning, it looks like most of the everyday type stocks have jumped up a bit overnight, but we definitely have a bunch of new stuff out there that are looking pretty promising. So first thing we're going to be looking at is SAVA, S-A-V-A. So the one thing about this, we can go all the way back to what we yesterday, and we can see, the prints that one thing we have to understand is that when it's this early in the morning, you're talking about a little bit after 8, and you have something parabolic like that, you cannot expect, especially on a stock with pretty thin orders, for us to be able to really get any type of bigger print. So most of what you wanted to see probably would have been on your regular time and sales. All right, but we got a little bit of buying that's above that 1050, not really as much as we'd like to see, but the thing that I do like, I like to see these off-level prints that are coming in to show us basically that this should have no problem in hitting that 1050. Now, from that 1050 area, that's where we're going to make all of our decisions. Based off the prints that come in there, we're going to be looking. Are we going to be looking for a large pullback to go underneath 10, because 10 obviously being a very hard level to be able to hold, or are we going to be able to break out and come back up to this double top and get towards that 11? Unfortunately, right now we have some good prints coming into it. We have some decent buying, but we need some type of controlling prints at that 1050 for us to really make any type of real decisions, especially too because of the fact that we do have a little bit, not much, but we have a little bit of buying that came in at 10 as we were coming back up that it really hasn't pulled back underneath that 10 from. But I really need to see something at that 1050 in order to really make any type of real decisions or any type of real trade, because obviously we need those controlling prints. So definitely going to be in play today, because you can go up both long and short. But again, control prints, control prints, control prints. Without that, we can't really make our game plan yet. Next thing we're looking at is LI. So Doug's been talking about it, and we've all been talking about the amount of buying that we've seen coming into this thing, and obviously gapped up overnight. Guy knew what he was doing. All right, but the thing coming in, we got some decent buying that came in at this 26 level. We're going to have to pull underneath that 26. Remember though, 25 is right underneath. 25 is going to be a hard thing for it to be able to hold unless we start to see some really nice buying coming into this. You can see above the 25 level, not really much at all besides this burst that we just got into that 26. So I would not be surprised to see this thing come all the way back down and basically test these lows before trying to go back to that 25 based off of these aspirants that we had at 26. The only thing is that we need a better selling reaction. Okay, if the stock's going to move $1 down on this pull up, we need to see a little bit more than what we see over here, like 26.10, 25.95. So going to want to see a little bit more selling. You're regardless going to have to pull back. So you can make a conservative 25.50, but really would make more sense to come back towards that level. Again, just need that selling to start to come in. XPEV, another one where we just had, this thing's been showing buying at almost every single level that we've been watching as it's been going up. And you can see a nice little burst of buying that came in at that 24 level. Our reaction is a pretty substantial amount of selling in comparison to what, the print personality is pretty big. Okay, but still a pretty substantial, bigger amount of selling than we did have buying at that 24. So again, I'm going to be expecting this thing to, come back. Obviously, it's 23.50 is really where we're going to have to start, just because its range isn't huge. All right, but I wouldn't be, again, surprised to see this print line, 23.20, 71,000 shares for us to end up coming back in there based off of the selling riders that we saw coming back there. Now, like I said, again, this isn't a huge trading stock, okay, but at the same time, it's just going to be hard for it to hold up here, especially if we look and we see that, there's just not as much as you would like to see coming into it, and it's going to need those pullbacks, especially with everything up there that really just shouldn't. It looks like a lot of these things are going to end up taking a little bit of a ride back to where they started from. Now, next one is APVO. So this there were shares available this morning, and it's really more of a sideless stock at the moment, but based off of what we had, we know we had a lot of buying that came in at 10 that it really did. It pulled back, but it just, I wouldn't be surprised to see this thing come back all the way back towards our print line, almost at that 8 level, because 10 is going to be something very hard to hold. There was some decent buying that we got coming in as the stock was moving up. It gave multiple entries at all different levels. So there's a bunch of buying that's still up here, but I'm going to have to see it kind of come underneath that 10 a little bit more before we'd be looking to take a trigger back towards that upside. But there's still a lot of buying up here, so we have to pay attention to kind of just the pattern that we see. And if you look over here, technically it's still holding in consolidation, especially off of where we had that, one of the bigger building parts where this thing broke out, right before the market closed yesterday. So this is another one. We're going to need some better prints, but overall, based off of what we have from the story yesterday, that's kind of where I'm leaning towards. Excuse me. Next thing, side list, DARAD. So I'm not really that happy with this one. The one thing that it does kind of have working for it is it does have some pretty decent buying that came in around these 325, and then it had a really nice burst that came in. It's not going to let me go back, I don't think. But it had a really nice burst that came in at 330. So there's definitely buying up around here as this thing is pulling back. But the reason it's on the side list is just because there's not a ton. There's just a lot of mix. It hasn't really shown the money flow going one way or the other too drastically. So another one we're going to have to kind of feel out as the market comes to an open. Just no real controlling prints for us to be going off of yet, but definitely has a lot of potential to come back towards that upside. So we'll see what ends up happening there. And then BLRX, another one. So yesterday we had a ton of buying that came in at this 3 level. They tested it a whole bunch of different times. So I just have a hard time believing that they were only looking to make 30 cents. So this thing's kind of sitting in this consolidation like this. It's still, looking kind of bullish, especially from this morning. If we can get some type of buying to come into here, 250 obviously did have the, this selling in there, but that was after 4. So I'm not really that concerned about it at all. We just need to see some type of new buying to show us to get back up there. But from yesterday, there is a lot of buying that's still sitting there. So I'm going to be keeping my eye on that one as well. So the problem is we got a lot of real good potential. We just don't have a lot of controlling prints. And obviously that's, the number one thing that we need in order to get our, to really make any type of decisions on our trades. So again, this isn't over yet, unfortunately. Yes, election day is over, but at the same time, we can't expect, all of a sudden trading to just, especially without a result, trading to just come back, back to normal and start to see huge days. So just keep that in mind as we get, into the open. Once again, just patience. It only takes that one to start our morning off the right way. So let's make sure that we're waiting for that one. Now, anything else out there that I missed? I know Uber and Lyft, but they didn't really, I know Lyft just showed something at 31, but I understand, they're there, but I haven't seen anything in there until now. Lyft, Lyft definitely, it's definitely worth watching. I have it up on my screen. But before this, I didn't really see anything that was really jumped out that much. It was really, a bunch of just kind of mixed prints, but that 31, those asks right there, pull back and then look for a movement towards that upside. Definitely like that. So I'm going to add Lyft to our list just because those are great prints. That's absolutely phenomenal, especially based off of what we, the 3080 and the 31 based off what the print personality is. Those stand out big time. So we'll add those in there as well. All right, guys, remember we have Traders Exchange today at 12:30. So let's make sure that we have our questions and topics in. I will talk to everybody in the chat and happy trading.